Hello guys, welcome back to CODEIN. So guys, I hope you all are doing safe and taking care of yourself. So as continuing with the series of C++, in today's video we are going to discuss about the constructors. In the previous video I have already told you about how do we define constructors, what is the way of defining a constructor, and what is the purpose of using constructors and destructor. But in today's lesson, we are going to discuss about the types of constructor, that is the parameterized constructor and the copy constructor. Default constructor is also a part of it, which I have already discussed in a previous video. So guys, if you are new to my channel, please do like it, share it, and also subscribe to my channel. I have posted content regarding everything CSS, Java, Python, C, C++, HTML, everything, all in a single video. So guys, if you like the content that I post, please do like it, share it, and subscribe it, and also share it as much as possible so that everyone gets to know about the things. And also you can follow me on my Instagram page where I'm posting some hacks. So stay tuned with my videos, and let's get started with the video without wasting any time, and let's you understand the constructors part. Now coming to the very first part, that is parameterized constructor. So what do we mean by parameterized constructor? So as we all know, whenever we define a function, we give it some arguments. Similarly, when I'm talking about a constructor, constructor can also accept parameters, or we can say that arguments. So such kind of constructors that accept parameters are called as parameterized constructor, or we can also call it as regular constructor. So once we declare an object, we know that the constructor is invoked at the same time. But when is the parameterized constructor will be invoked? As soon as we will give the parameters to that. Suppose say we have defined a constructor. Now the constructor will be named as the same name of the class name. So whenever I am going to define a constructor, so what it will happen? It will take the parameters, whichever parameter I have passed over there, and according to that parameters only the constructor will accordingly work. Now how do we work with default constructor and parameterized constructor? So for that we have two type of calling, that is first is implicit calling and the second is the explicit calling. First of all, what is an implicit calling? Whenever I'm talking about the implicit call, it means the constructor is called when its name has not been mentioned in the statement. We are just mentioning the name, then we are just mentioning the object, and then we are giving the parameters, as you can see in the syntax right on your screen. So this way is when we are calling it implicitly, like just defining the name of the class, then its object, and just passing the parameters at the same time. Now next thing is what is explicit calling. When I'm talking about explicit calling means that it will be explicitly provided to invoke that the object can be initialized. So for that what we will be using, we will create an object first of all. After that we will provide that object with some value in which we will pass that constructor. So for that I have used over here, so you can see first of all the class name, then the object name, which will be equal to the class name and then its desired parameters. That is particularly the syntax of explicit type. Now, whenever you are using a parameterized constructor, we also need to keep one thing in mind. Whenever the parameterized constructor will be called, the default constructor will not be called, if we are not calling that particular default constructor. If you are calling the default constructor with some another function and the parameterized constructor with some another function, so in that case it will work. But if you are calling just the parameterized constructor and not the default constructor, only one constructor will work at that particular time. So let's understand what do we mean by parameterized constructor and how do we work with parameterized constructor. Understand this with the help of a program. So now in this program, what I am going to do, I am going to declare the constructor, but the constructor will involve some parameter. As you in the previous video, you must have seen that I have defined the constructor which was named as the class name. So if you don't know what is basically what do we mean by a constructor, how do we define a class, you can watch my previous videos. The link is at the top right corner, which is the full playlist telling you about everything about C++, and also you can watch out my other video which will help you out. So here I am creating a class sample in which I have taken two variables, that is int I and j. So basically what I am going to do, I am just going to give these values, and according to I am going to show you that how the constructor will work and how I can pass the parameter. So here you can see I have defined now sample again, which is in the public, that is a member function. So in this case, a member function I've taken over here is a constructor. So you can see I pass some parameters int a, comma int b. So basically these parameters are called as parameterized constructor. Whenever I pass parameter to a constructor, that is called as a parameterized constructor. After I've taken a print statement, if just I want to print the particular value of I and j. So that's your choice, whatever way you want to print the value. By the time now my must be clear that how does the cout statement work, what is the purpose of cout statement. Also you can not just enter these values, but you can also take the input from the user in the main function. So in my case, I'm just going to define the values and just going to pass that value in the parameterized constructor and then assign the values accordingly to ing. So here I have written the value, that value of ing will be whatever has been passed to that particular. Now I've closed the class over here. Whenever I want to close the class, class always end with a semicolon. Now I've taken an int main function. In the int main function, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to define the object. So here I've defined the object sample. Then I'm going to take that particular number which I want to take. What is the name of the object that you want to take? So I'm just going to pass the value, that is 5, 6 I have passed. So this 5 and 6 will be invoked, given in A and B. Now A and B is stored in ing, so accordingly ing will be provided that particular value. So when I am going to run this code, so what it will happen when I am going to print the statement, like using the function print with the object of s1, so the content that was in passed over here will be shown me in the value. So the value of I is this and j is this. Now this is the way through which we pass a parameterized constructor. Now here you can see I've just passed the value within the object. So when I am passing the value within the object, in that case it is called as a implicit calling. Whenever I pass the value within the creation of the object, and after that, that is called as implicit call. So this is the first way, that is the implicit call. Now how do we define explicit call? We are going to understand that. So first of all, this was the desired output. The value of I is this and the j is this. So now how do I work with when I want to make it a explicit call? So for making it explicit call, what we are going to do, we are just going to create an object. In that object, we are going to store into some particular value. So we are clear with the output, that how is this working. So now let's understand that how the explicit call works. So here you can see, now I'm going to define some, say, another object, or it is your choice, the same object you want to create. Now I'm going to create another object. For that another object, the name of the class will be same, that is sample. So for that I've written sample, then I'm taken s2 or a2, whatever value you want to take. So here I'm taken the another object. In the another object, what I've taken is equals to, what is the name of the object, then I am going to define over here the name of the class, that is sample. Again I have written the same of the class sample, in which I am going to pass some parameters. Now it is your choice, you want to enter the parameters over here only, or you want to enter it from the user and then you want to pass that particular parameter. Ended with semicolon. So when I am going to run this code, so what will be the difference in the desired output will be the content that will be shown to me. The value of the first object will be shown according to the implicit call. This value in the second object will be shown with the help of the explicit call. So I have again called the print function with s2.print, in which I am going to display this particular content. So when I am going to run this, so this is the desired output whichever we are going to use with the help of explicit call. Kind of constructor that we have in C++ is copy constructor. Now we have done till two constructor, a default constructor and the other parameterized constructor. In the default constructor, what it was happening was just creating the object and with call, and whatever the content we have displayed, it will pass according to that. Parameterized constructor, we are passing the value. Now what is a copy constructor? So as the definition say, a copy constructor is a form class name. The compiler will use the copy constructor whenever you initialize an instance using value of another instance. So basically in the copy constructor, what it is used, it is just used to create the copy of the particular desired object and pass that particular desired object into another object and call that and create a copy to the compiler and initialize that particular value. So now why do we need a copy constructor? Means when is a copy constructor called and why do we need a copy constructor? So when I talk about when is a copy constructor invoked? So the number one case is when an object is passed by value. So as we all know, that is there is a call by value and call by reference. So whenever I want to pass by value, then I am going to use a copy constructor. So the copy constructor is invoked when an object is passed by value to a function. The pass by value method requires a copy of the passed argument to be created for the function to operate. So that is why we use a copy constructor in the function prototype. So whenever we are going to call that function, so the copy constructor will help us invoke that. Next is when function returns an object. Now when do I mean by function return an object? When an object is returned by a function, the copy constructor is invoked. When a function with the prototype is involving a object, then the copy constructor is invoked. It may be an inline function or whatever function we want to take. So this is the way whenever I want to pass a copy constructor. Now let us move to the next part, that is the copy constructor example. Now I've told you that copy constructor will be called in two ways. So whenever I'm talking about a copy constructor is we can say as we passed by a reference. So now when I'm talking about a copy constructor, for that we are just going to create a copy of that particular object. So here you can see I've created a class B in which I've written public, in which I'm going to define some values, that is int x, comma int y, or whatever value you want to give. So after that I'm going to declare a constructor in which I am going to define some parameter and just pass the parameter over here. So when I pass the parameter, that constructor is called as a parameterized constructor. So b int a. Now given the value of a to x. So first of all, the value of x is assigned as a. So this is the parameterized constructor that I've created. So you can see that all the things over here I have created as a public, the data member also and the member function also. After that, what I am going to use, I am going to use the copy constructor. For the copy constructor, what I am going to use, b, and then what was the syntax and the class name. First of all, b is the class name, and whatever value I want to take, whatever variable I want to take, for that I have taken over here I. So means it will create a copy of that particular object. So this is a copy constructor. Now in the copy constructor, what I want, that whatever value is involved in I will be involved in X. So basically the copy of that particular value will be created. So X equals to I dot X means it has been passed dot object. Whenever we use an object, we always use a dot operator. So here we are using 1 dot X, which is basically the copy of that. Now we are going to the main function. In the main function, what we are going to perform, we are going to just add that particular value. So for adding that particular value, we are going to use A1, in which we are going to pass a particular value, that is 20. Now I just want to print this particular value. So here, sorry, by mistake I written a, our class name is b, so I've taken b over here, in which we have written b120. Then I'm going to pass that particular object. So for that I'm going to take B, A2 and A1. So this is basically when I'm going to call the copy constructor. In the first case, what it was calling the parameterized constructor. Second case, it is calling the copy constructor. So whenever I'm going to return these things, so what is going to be printed to me? So for that I've taken over here cout statement. In cout statement, what I want to print? I want to print the value of x. So I've just used A2.x. So means I'm assessing the member with the help of the second object in which the copy constructor was being called. So here the call of the copy constructor has been done, as you can see in the statement. And in this case, you can see we have been calling the parameterized constructor in the first case, that is B1. That is passing value 20 whenever it will be called. So the parameterized constructor will be called. So the parameterized constructor we have already defined. So when I'm going to run this, you can see it is showing me an undefined symbol, that is A1, because I've taken over here the object B1. So when I'm going to run this code, so what it will exactly happen, the content that was displayed into this will be shown, that is the value here is 20. So this is the way through which we work with the copy constructor. So guys, I hope you must be clear about what do we mean by a parameterized constructor, what do we mean by a copy constructor, how do we invoke it, how do we work with it. So guys, if you like the content that I post, please do like it, share it, and also subscribe to my channel. And you can also follow me on my Instagram page. Recently posted some hacks. If you want me to add in the shorts, I will add over here also in YouTube. So guys, if you like the content that I post, please do like it, share it, and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day.